and I walked up out of there. They tried to stop me at the door, and I looked at them like, you better let me out. We out here in these streets. So earlier we were talking about the musicians being thieves. Woo! Wow, that was a topic. So this kind of led me to thinking about what the function of the church building is, and reason why I say church building or the church organization or because to me those are different things than the church body. The idea of the church body that we use in Christianity, the church body being the gathering of people, because the Bible talks about how where two and three are gathered together. I cannot talk. Where 2 and 3 are gathered together, there I will be. And he's showing us the makeup of the church, meaning it's not about a temple, it's not about a place to go, it's about the gathering of people. So that idea of the church, and you're talking about, I'm talking the idea of the building, the place that has the lights, the chairs, the doors, the heat, the facilities, cameras, organs, pianos, this thing that creates an atmosphere, this platform that the church body uses to give the people of God an experience, right? The place that helps create the experience of the love of God. So I'm talking about that. Those two things are different to me because this goes with the idea of whether musicians should get paid, whether pastors should get paid, whether there should be some staff, all this stuff. What kind of organization are they? Nonprofit organization? Why are they nonprofit 501c3 and stuff like this, right? So I believe that the church organization needs to function like an organization. It's a building. It's a community of people, right? Here to do work or to live and to live amongst one another, because obviously if we look at the Bible, it talks about us being a community. It wasn't just about going to church and hallelujah, and having all that going and music and preaching. It wasn't about that. The church was also a community. So, and you notice how when Paul was teaching in the Bible, he talked to the community as well as talked to the spiritual aspects of things. And he was very specific when he was talking to community, when he was breaking down what levels of people should be doing what, when, and where, and how, right? Whether you're bishop, whether you're these people, what you should be doing within this church organization or within this community. Right, he was more showing the believers how to live under a rule that does not necessarily agree with their lifestyle or their God choice. So I believe that because the church is an organization, there needs to be certain things in place. And a lot of people have a problem with churches gathering money. Oh, they're always getting the tithe and they're always doing this and this. And I said, of course they're getting the tithe. Of course they want some giving, because how can they provide this place of refuge that everybody goes to on Sunday to get this experience if they don't have money? Just like if you want to go to the Beyonce concert, they actually set the date and then we start buying tickets. And guess what they use that money for? They project that money on how much they're going to spend to put the situation up. So when they put the Beyonce concert up, they didn't spend a certain amount of money, and the ticket sales let them know, like, okay, yes, we're going to be able to cover that and make a profit, right? Now, different with the churches, they're not trying to make a profit. They're trying to get this finance in order to do the things and the services that we ask them to do, which is we want to hear a message every Sunday. We want to hear some music every Sunday. If I'm going to do these things, I need some child care. Who's going to watch my kids while I'm trying to get what I need? Because my kid is a distraction. Do you got daycare? Do you got children's ministry? Can they be taught as well? And all these things are being done. So then also that requires people to do those things, to do those services. People to go home and create curriculums and come up with messages and come out. They're doing research in order to speak intelligently to the people. People going, like the musicians I said earlier, we're going home to practicing and we're coming to rehearsals to make sure that we're playing the songs the way they need to be played so that they can be effective. So y'all not looking at us like, what is he playing? Oh my God, what did this man just say? He didn't research that well, right? Because we're looking for a certain excellence in the things that we're delivering. So these things require time, and time requires finance. And finance allows for us to do these things. You can't pay for your lights. You can't pay for your building. You won't even have that place to go if you don't have money. So we have this world, and not only world, we have people in the church who's complaining about the money that churches are getting. Now, I get it. There are some people who abuse the idea of getting money. But here's the funny thing about people who abuse the idea of money. I've been to churches where they take 4 and 5 offerings and won't let you leave the room until they get $1,000. And I walked up out of there. They tried to stop me at the door, and I looked at them like, you better let me out. Because it's my choice whether I give them my money or not. I don't care how much a hallelujah they say and how much I'm going to go to hell for not giving them money. If I don't want to give my money nor my time, it will not happen, because I am ultimately responsible for the thing I do. So we can complain about them abusing and taking 5 different offerings, but you the one giving them the money. We can complain about those other people talking about, well, they're being swindled and they're being manipulated. Whose fault is that? Not yours, not the pastor's. That's the person who's being manipulated. Because if they don't know that they've been manipulated, it's because they didn't do their due diligence. As the Bible said, to study and show thyself approved. He didn't say certain people had to study. He said it to everybody. So if you don't know your scriptures and know what proper etiquette of the church, and you getting raped by this pastor out of your money, whose fault is that? That's definitely not the pastor's fault. He doing his hustle. Now he gonna answer for his hustle. He gonna answer to God for his deception. But you kind of fell for the hustler. The hustler gonna be a hustler, but you don't have to give the hustler your money, right? So you don't have to give the hustler your life. So we have to get out of the idea of thinking that the church is just this body that has to do everything spiritual, because that's not correct. Now, in the church world, we talk about how the Bible, the body, how the church is the body of Christ. Like it's referred to as a body, right? And what we know about our bodies is the greatest example about our bodies is what? Us, humans. We have 3 parts of us: mind, soul, and body. Our physical, our mental, and our spiritual, right? If the church is truly a body, right? So now, as an organization, obviously the organizational church cannot function like the world church, because they have a standard to live by, which is the spiritual standard. I'm putting this together. So the church has to live by the church, right? The church organization has to live by the church body, right? So the church body who runs the organization lives by a rule. So then they function with this rule while they're doing this organization, right? So we take those principles. If we're all physical, spiritual, mental, then the body must be the same. The church organization must be the same thing, right? So you take that idea and you say, well, same thing in that aspect. Don't go back and say, you just said it wasn't the same thing. No, I'm talking about the same aspect, the same ideology of how to function, because a body's a body, right? Even though this body is an organization and this body is a group of people, it's still a body's a body. It functions like a body. So the church organization has a spiritual point, which is the teachings, the worship. Then it has the physical point, which is the church, which needs to be maintained. Because guess what? Our bodies need to be maintained. So guess what? We got to put food into it so it can grow. We got to make sure we're maintaining it. And then we're also trying to exceed our physical. Like I work out. Like I cannot work out and just be sitting there. But I work out to build this body, right? Same thing with the church building organ. We need to build the building. It needs to expand so they can get more people in. It needs to have services. It needs to have daycares and all these different elements within the church, classes, things that they want to provide in order to do what? Spiritually grow the church body. Church organization has to have a area for the church body to grow, right? So I'm breaking this down for y'all. I hope I'm doing pretty good on this. So this is how it functions. So then how do you get all that together? You got to have the mental, the brain power. So then there's staff like the pastors, the ushers, the media teams, the worship teams, all of these people thinking about, okay, what are the things that we need to do? That's work. They have their little board meetings and their things and say, okay, so what do we need to do to make sure that this is an effective weekend, which this is effective service, this is effective, daycare is effective, which this class is effective. And they come together with a bunch of people and they come together and they create this thing and then boom, they implement it. Takes work. So the church organization has to function like a business, and it takes finances. So we can't sit here and make it wrong for the church to want to accrue finances. The church doesn't sell anything. It's a service. It's like a nonprofit organization. It's like Goodwill, or it's like Goodwill sells stuff, but they get it all from donations. They're selling the things that they're getting for donations so that they can keep their doors open, so that they continue to provide cheap stuff for people. Same thing with the church. The church requires tithe and giving so that the church can keep functioning, so that they can keep giving something to them. If those doors is open, that church organization no longer has a body that dwells in it in order to give. Now that the body is dispersed, there's need to be a center point, right? Center point. I mean, of course, we can do like Kanye and meet out in the wilderness. But how many people who are going to actually come to the wilderness? Well, I got my kids and they got to do this. Yes, they can say kids going to get an adult, but kids ain't going to pay attention to adults. What adults are getting. They said, when I was a kid, we would sit in church. I'd be like, I don't have to know what the preachers were saying when I was a kid. So we have to provide something for them. Can we provide that also? Maybe we can. But what happens if it rains or snows? Now we're getting wet. Just all this stuff, right? So I'm not trying to, I am justifying the idea of a church being an organization or a business. So we have a world who's talking about how the church is being like Creflo Dollar. I saw something about Creflo Dollar having a jet, and then this other guy having a jet. And I know that's a little extensive, and these people want these things. But you know what? That's their prerogative. They want it. They want it. If their church body decides to give them tithe enough to get it, then that's their church body. They made that decision. We can't get mad at them, say that they're wrong in this and this and this. No, they're not wrong. They asked, they received, right? I asked for it, they received. Now, if you want to give your money to a crook, you want to give your money to a crook, it's your job to beware of wolves in sheep clothing. It's your job. It's not the wolf for them to tell you I'm a wolf. Right? The wolf is doing what a wolf does, which is to prey on people or to prey on their prey. Not prey like prey, but prey like stalk. But anyways, we'll be back after this. Hey, if you like this video and more, make sure you're logging on to YouTube, the Wiley Life, also Speak Music Radio, also Cypher on the Block. All those platforms have different content on there. Obviously, Speak Music Radio is my radio station, which my Cypher on the Block is featured on. And there's other content there from BB Talks and a lot of different things. Interviews that we've done at Stellar Awards, as well as on the Wiley Life. It's all the content that I create, and Cypher on the Block is specifically this podcast. Make sure the whole podcast is in full. That's the only thing that's posted on there. All the clips are posted on the Wiley Life. So make sure you're subscribing and pushing the notification bell, because I want to know that you make sure you're supporting. If you like everything I'm doing, support me by going to my Patreon account. That's The Wiley Life Patreon. The Wiley Life. Look that up. Become a Patreon. There's going to be some Patreon exclusive content that are going to be going. If you become a Patreon at certain levels, you will get gifts from my merch store. My merch store. You can also support me that way. If you just want to go get some merch, you can support me that way. That's on teespring.com/stores/The Wiley Life. Make sure you follow me on all of my social medias. That's Chris Conscious on all social medias. That's The Wiley Life and Cypher on the block. Please, please, please. And we out here in these streets.